let's look at what happened. Supreme Court affirmed strict standard to prove race discrimination in contracting. Now let's look at this a little bit. To win the case in lower courts now, Allen's Entertainment Studios Network and National Association of African American owned media will have to prove that race was the determinative factor in the snub. During oral arguments in November, Associate Justice Samuel Alito wondered if the case was headed toward doom. The court's decision puts in place a tougher burden of proof that will likely make it more difficult for many discrimination victims, said Kirsten Clark, president of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under law. No doubt this ruling may shut the courthouse door on discrimination victims. Allen lost in federal district court, but won a reversal at the U.S. Court of Appeals on the Ninth Circuit. A key issue in the case before the Supreme Court was whether his network must show that race was the sole reason for the denial of contract or just one factor. What we're talking about when we say that is the but-for rule. That's what we're talking about. But for race, I would have had this contract. But for race, I would have had this job or whatever. But for. See, what you want to do in any kind of case when you're before, you just try to be selfish for one moment. Can you? Like, what we try to do is say we want the law to favor us, in the best way possible. I want a law, so I need this law to be as broad as possible because I will never be able to. We don't live in a period where people run around saying the N-word or I don't serve blacks. So what you have to do, you have to have, in that kind of situation, what you have to have, for them to tell you what you have to have is a smoking gun means that you can't file because you're never going to have a smoking gun. You're never going to be in a situation where, I don't know a better way to put it, but you're never going to be in a situation where, oh my God, I found all the emails where they was saying specifically that they're not going to give me this contract because I'm black. And they called me a little monkey child. And they said this, I have found the smoking gun. You won't. Not only because of the era that we live in, but because of the efficiency of white supremacy and racist companies. That's just what it is. We didn't build it this way. We live here, but we didn't build this. America is the most efficient. It's quite efficient, the most efficient. Even when you look back at slavery in terms of white supremacy, most efficient. So when you understand how efficient America is at subjugating us, you understand that those same Americans hire and fire people. And what you understand is you're not going to catch them in the act. You're not going to catch some smoking gun and say, I got it right now. You have to, because somebody, let me just give you an example. Right? Let's say you have a job. Let's say you're a black woman and you have a job. And you go to your job, every day. You're rarely late, but you were late a couple of times. Now, because you work at the job that you get treated very differently than the little white women on your job. You know that they look at you. The white women can wear different clothes and have their shoulder out. But the minute you come around, they tell you that you got to adhere specifically to the code of conduct. And then they'll bring you in there and show you the code of conduct book, how you doing it all wrong. But you see this thing and what you see happening is that, hold on. What you see happening is, hold on a second. They're treating me differently. I'm not getting promotions. I'm more qualified. All kinds of stuff. They're treating me differently. And the only thing that I see different between me is that I'm black and these women is white. And so they fire you. Now, let's say you found out, you heard or you saw something and you found out that race is one of the motivating factors in getting you fired. But what if your company says, yeah, but it wasn't the determining factor. See, because you were also late. So yeah, Race was a factor, but it wasn't the determining factor. It was a motivating factor and not the determining factor. You can't prove it's a determining factor, so you lose. That gives companies a right to discriminate because, hey, there are a lot of motivating factors. I didn't like your shoes. Sometimes when you walk by the door, you poop. Maybe you got uncontrolled flatulence or whatever, but it's a lot. So it's a lot of stuff, including race. That is permission to discriminate, because what you're basically saying is, but for you can't prove but for race, you would have still had your job, because they're saying there were other factors. And let me just say something else, fam. A company can always come up with other factors. A company can always backtrack and put stuff in there that you would never be able to prove. A company can always write you up for something that everybody else gets away with. A company can always do that. You need a motivating factor rule as opposed to a determining factor, but you don't. So it doesn't work. So I don't see how, like, just from where I sit, I don't see how people still file for discrimination. I just don't see how it happens. I don't see what happens. I don't see how that's possible. And I don't see how you prove it. You can't. There is no smoking gun. So how would you do that?